Hey friends, we have some news from our sponsor Text Control. They just released version 32 of their document processing library, which includes new core functionality such as document footnotes, SVG export, and more. You can integrate document editing, signing, collaboration, and PDF processing into your ASP.NET Core and Angular applications with Text Control. These powerful libraries will let your developer teams focus on their core competencies, while Text Control handles your digital document processing. Check out all the new features and see the technologies live in action by visiting the demo at demos.textcontrol.com. That's demos.textcontrol.com.
Hey friends, I'm Scott Hanselman. This is another episode of Hansel Minutes. In fact, this is a special episode, a very special episode of the Hansel Minutes podcast. It's the return of my wife. Hello, wife.
Hey, Scott Hanselman. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for hanging out. We've had you on the show 3 or 4 times before, and believe it or not, they are some of the highest rated episodes of the Hansel Minutes podcast. Because people want to know, I guess, how you can put up with me for, what are we at? We're coming up 25 years next year?
24 years now. Yeah, 25 next year.
Yeah, 25
crazy.
In a minute.
Yeah.
Tiresome?
Oh, it's exhausting. I'm a saint, but I
Character makes you as
my cross to bear.
Okay. You know, we talked about the idea that it's a mixed marriage, and we joke about that because a mixed marriage could mean many things. People usually think it means like race or it means culture. Certainly you were born in another country, you're born in Zimbabwe, but I've always thought it was a mixed marriage because you're just wired differently than I'm wired. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that the gender or race, or never gender, of course, but like the things that make us different, is it the personality stuff or is it the way you grew up stuff that makes us the most different?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. I'm always taken aback by how little for us the race is an issue. That's not the top 3 things that I think about when I think about differences between you and me. It's very cultural. A lot of it is how I was raised versus how you were raised. I mean, I was drilled. Yeah,
It's that different?
I think so. I mean, we were always drilled with that whole show respect to your elders. Whereas
And I was
you're
you hear to old people? Come on, man. No, you
see grandma walking on the street, knock her over. That's pretty much you.
love to do the whole like Ubuntu. But no, my family is family focused, and we always get together, and why do you think that that's culturally is different? Because I don't.
Well, back up. When you say Ubuntu, do people know what that is?
Yeah, well, explain the whole thing.
Well, no, you explain it.
No, I don't want to take away space from. You always have to defer to the person. Plus, you're the one who's living Ubuntu. I'm just the colonizer.
Yeah. That got real.
We're just saying. Please explain Ubuntu.
Ubuntu is like humanity.
But explain the sentence, the whole thing.
See, and then when I try to explain it, I'm going to do it your way. So right there, the oppression is great. Come on, dude. No. Oh, as I was saying, Ubuntu is humanity. So it's the way of being, the reverence that we have for each other, right? The respect and all that stuff. So that's what I think of as Ubuntu. Definitely.
I was thinking about the Ubuntu, Ngawantu, Ubuntu. Like, people are people through other people. Like, we are the whole, like, you can't just say the word.
Well, no.
If people think Ubuntu, they think about the operating system. Like, people in it.
But, well, and again, that's the difference between us.
Everyone in this call is like, Ubuntu. He likes Windows. Why are they talking
about Ubuntu? Yeah. No. And the expression that you're saying, Umuntu Ngabantu, is an expression that says exactly what you said, which is a person is a person by people kind of a thing, meaning you're not alone.
If
right?
you're alone, if you're like one person and you're the only person on the entire planet, you can't really be a person because you're defined by the people around you and your family.
Right. And then community. Working together in community, exactly, and all that stuff. So I mean, but my culture was very much a we culture, right? I mean, I have 6 siblings. You have 1. So inherent in my upbringing was always, for instance, the sharing, the thinking of the others, the worrying. I mean, it was never really that quick. There was no conversation we had growing up that was simple and easy because amongst the siblings, when there's 7 of you total, right, it's going to take a minute to go around and have everybody's opinion.
Okay.
And some of us had 2 opinions.
Yeah.
So it took even longer.
Okay. So then put that in the context of quote unquote American exceptionalism and American individualism. Like, everyone here is like, you're amazing, you're unique, you're special. there's not the focus on the collective. The whole concept of it takes a village, did not come
Really?
from, America.
I mean, that's not an American saying. For us, it does. It takes a village. It really that idea of saying, okay, what are we going to do? And sometimes you have to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of the good. Or when you'd see kids out in the street, and I think we've talked about this before in your podcast about how the village takes responsibility for you. So you would have people walk up to you and kind of give you a little slap on the face if you were being obnoxious, or if you were acting inappropriate, or
A metaphorical.
sure. And sometimes it was physical back in the day, but usually it was more along the word.
It's your aunties and your neighbors. Everyone's your auntie.
Exactly, and your uncle, and they'd say, "I know your mother. She would be so embarrassed by the way you're behaving. Stop it." And they felt obligated.
I will say,
Speak up.
you do make the boys call effectively everyone that we know and have over for dinner is auntie.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the boys, even now at 17 and 19, can tell who's a real auntie and who's a neighborhood auntie.
Yeah.
Okay, but to the point about us being separate, then, are you saying that that cultural difference shows up in our conversations and our relationships?
Yeah, I think so, because we will be talking about something. I'll be thinking, well, obviously, there's only one solution to this problem, and you come at it with something completely unexpected, and I'm like, how on earth did you think that was A, a solution, and B, one worth vocalizing and putting on the table?
Do you think that is because I'm American and we are individualistic as a culture, as opposed to like more communal cultures like whether it be Zimbabwe or Korea or Japan, that are well known for their like collective consciousness? Or is it because I'm a computer person who's got a touch of the tism and I'm wired a certain way?
All of the above. I think so. I mean, I think again,
So all of the above?
yes, as far as it's not only the one.
I'm just saying, like, which part of it is America's fault and which part of it is Hanselin's fault?
Yeah, I don't know that I could break it down to like 50% and 50%, right? I mean, you are already a person, so somewhere along the way, the upbringing, the environment, right, all these things. But I mean, I do agree that your family in particular, like the Hansel clan is probably a little different from the general American clan, right? You guys are definitely a lot more family focused.
Broad generalizations of the entire culture.
Right. I'm not imputing everybody. I'm just giving props to your family, because I've always found them to be as a collective, to be a collective, first of all. Whereas I have a friend, I have a friend who says, she's like, no, once she turned 21, she was done with her family. And it wasn't even necessarily that they were bad people, but she just didn't feel like there was a need to be spending Christmases and holidays together. So she said, thank you for raising me. And they felt very much like, we've done our job.
You and I are talking about it. I was very excited to move out at 19, right? Like I moved out of my parents' house at like 13 into the garage. And then I moved fully out at 19 into an apartment. And I thought that was great. And for you, it's like, well, you should have been able to stay until you got married.
Shocking, yeah. I mean, the 13 to 19, right, moving out of the garage, that's probably because you were obnoxious and it's all ET.
Like my own space. So there was a room behind the garage. So I slept in a futon in the garage.
So I don't count that as moving out.
I did a door, though, to the outside of it. You know what I mean? Like I could leave.
You could escape.
I could leave without going into the house. I'm just saying. It was a separate garage. It was really a physically separate building.
But I mean, to the extent that you're still having all your meals with your family and your laundry. Yeah, right.
But the point is that like the idea of like staying until you get married and like living at home till 30, which is now apparently becoming a thing because the rent is too high.
Right. Well, I mean, what with COVID and the economy, I'm sure that's a whole different thing. But I mean, when I was growing up, yeah, you left home because you went to university, or in my case, I came to a foreign country, went to study overseas, or you got married. Those were really the only options. This idea that you could be like, oh, I'm 19 now, I'm going to find my own apartment. It was cost prohibitive. And who's going to watch the younger babies while you're gone if you decide to live alone? So again, thinking about more than just yourself. Hey, if I leave, what happens to mom and the kids? Then mom has to do all the laundry, the cooking, the dishes, watch the kids, right? Whereas if I'm here, I'm also part of the help. I can be part of the collective that helps raise the children and all that stuff.
So how is this, though, possible to be married for 25 years and not find this to be like an incompatible thing? Because there's all kinds of irreconcilable differences that cause people to say, this guy nuts.
And I'll circle back to the beginning. I am a saint and humble too. So mean. So, well, I think, honestly, it is just a little give and take, right? And you've endured with a lot of stuff. I mean,
Endured.
you persevered.
Focus on endured. Yeah. No, but I think that one of the things, I think we said this before. I don't know. I can't tell how many times you've been on the show a couple times, but like, do you remember? I think there's 3 or 4 things we talked about early on. And one of them was, okay, before the boys existed, right? You and I are married. We're, 20s. And we're like, we're on the same side. Remember that whole conversation?
Right.
Like, no matter what,
Right.
if something comes up and maybe you think that I did something dumb or you make a mistake or I make a mistake, presume that we're on the same side and it was done with positivity
Yeah.
rather than assuming
The
malice.
worst. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that was a big,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's like 3 or 4 things like that. And that's one of them that always stuck
Well,
with me.
one of the
We're
things
a team.
we didn't say that at the time, but one of the sayings that you've gotten in the last 5 years, which I like, is don't attribute to malice what is incompetence. You're extremely incompetent.
So we just assume that I have no idea what I'm doing.
There goes a
Happy marriage.
bumbling along.
Hanselman is an idiot.
That's right.
No, but like there's all kinds of random weird stuff that can happen that would cause someone to go like what's that text message? Who's that person? What's that like? What's going on? What are you doing on social media? Like any one of those things where you could go, ugh. But if you assume best intentions,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, look, you travel less so now, of course, after COVID, but before you used to travel. What I thought was a lot, and there's inherent in that, right? Is trust. Do I trust you to not have a second family out there and find out you've got, another wife, another family, other kids, or whatever?
I need to make a call.
Yeah, not as funny as you might think. And then when you leave me with the boys, it's always like, okay,
For a few days. For instance, this is the whole thing, like, but when you're by yourself and you're taking care of the kids for like 2 days, that could be an eternity. You know what I mean?
right?
I'm just saying I wasn't gone for months at a time.
No,
I'm not like on the oil well.
yeah, no. Thankfully, I mean that's got to be hard. Fellow families that that are somebody is serving
Or serving overseas.
exactly, and then you've got a spouse that's left with the kids or whatever. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So even for those few days, I mean, it felt like a lot, especially when they were younger, or that when they become teenagers and assaulted, then you're just like,
I'm trying to think about, like you said, when they're younger and then when they're older, like there's really no good
it's no good time. Yeah.
Well, and then that brings me to the next question, which is that now the older, we'll call him Z, has moved out, quote unquote, moved out in the sense that he's now in a dorm at a university elsewhere, hundreds of miles away. That empty nest thing, is that starting to hit you? The idea that like that T, the younger one, is only here for another year and a half.
Yeah.
It's like 68 weeks or something like that.
I love that you're counting.
No, I don't exactly. I'm just saying, like that kind of stuff is starting to freak me out. And then we have to go and figure out who we are again.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like when you think about when you're in the day to day, you hear people saying it goes fast. And I've got coworkers who one of them's got a 2-year-old, and then another one's got a 5-year-old, and so on and so forth. And you think to yourself, it's like I remember when our boys were 2 and 4, and then
I would love nothing more than to like go to the mall with a 2-year-old right now and like hold their hand.
yeah,
That would be the best.
yeah, because now in our household everybody's driving, so it's real effort to be like, okay, guys, I mean, one is at college, even he's not even physically here, so the few days that he is here to try to get us together, that's so like I really enjoy that a lot. The 4 of us having a meal together, and those days are so few and far between, so it's tough. But my question for you, talking about almost empty nesters, is how is raising Z came back, for instance, and then he was going to go out and hang out with his friends and was gone for a while. How is that dynamic when he's come back? What's your role as a parent to that child that's been on campus and been away and then comes back?
I need to have my mom on the show sometime because she has some phrases, some sayings. It's funny how like there's a tape, we called them tapes in the 80s, right? Like the repeated cassettes that run in your head. And I would say something like, oh, so-and-so is super selfish or whatever. And my mom would say, yes, they are. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. Now, that doesn't excuse it. That doesn't say a selfish 19-year-old is a bad thing. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't pressure them gently and push them towards being more magnanimous, being more thoughtful. But given where the brain is at 17, given where the brain is at 19, it is totally reasonable and normal for a kid to come back from college, drop his laundry off and take off and run off with his other friend. It doesn't mean that we can't mourn it and say, dude, come back. You want to have a meal? We haven't seen you.
Yeah.
But it's also normal. And my mom very often would say that, like, yes, you're a horrible, selfish teenager and that's normal.
Yeah.
So like sometimes when I say that, I feel like you think I'm forgiving it or I'm saying it doesn't matter. You know that I'm acknowledging that it is both frustrating, but it is also developmentally normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and again, circling back to that priority of, I mean, when my sister and I talked when we were growing up, there was a heavy emphasis on respect. So my tolerance for salty teens who sort of want to mouth off to me is not as great as yours. I think that's been one of the issues that we've had to work on as a couple. It's, I'm done. I mean,
You know what's been interesting?
you're having an issue, say you had a bad day, or you thought you studied for a test and then you didn't do well on the test, and then you come home and you're obviously frustrated, right?
Right, right.
Still, I don't care. Freaking show me the respect. I am your mother,
Yeah.
and I worked hard to bring you into this world, and we've sacrificed a lot to get you where you are. When you talk to me, you will show me respect.
Mhm.
Whereas you, on the other hand, I feel are a lot more. And so, and I'm not compassionate. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, someone is listening, like, wow, she's mean.
Not at all. They're saying she's
But
disciplined,
I-
and look how well she's done in her life because of that.
I keep coming back to the idea that the kid is not an adult,
Right.
and I have facilities and spoons, right,
Mhm.
to use the spoons theory concept,
Mhm.
far more than they do.
Correct.
The idea that like a kid comes home and he mouths off, like in the 1950s, you slap the kid, that's bad. To be clear, that's bad. And you might say with a Zimbabwean, upbringing, you'd be like, you will not speak to me. Like, there could be a moment there where you blow up.
Mhm.
But I grew up in the squishy, warm fuzzies, cold pricklies kind of 80s, where it's like, wonder what's really underneath.
And
Like,
what's the root of
what's the thing? So I think they call that now gentle parenting, where, the argument of like, my mom was mean to me and I grew up fine, or my dad broke the spoon on my butt and I grew up fine. I grew up with very squishy West Coast parents that read all the psychology books and then tried them out on me that afternoon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I am shockingly trauma free.
Yeah. Shockingly.
And I have a huge amount of like, I'm very Mr. Rogers with the kids. And you actually mock my Mr. Rogers behavior because you'll be like, hey, buddy, what's going on? Why are you acting like, and it's like, you think I'm giving them too much quarter when it's like,
Right.
dude, don't talk like that. That's disrespectful. But I really want to understand the root cause.
Yeah. I mean, I think though, like anything else, right? It's in moderation. Correct.
Exactly. That is the
If and we're very fortunate when we talk about our kids being mouthy in our particular context, they are just they don't they're not dropping F-bombs or anything.
No, that's not bad mouth.
But still, there's a tone to them, so you can take any word that you say, but if the tone is wrong, it's offensive, right? And
The tone thing is sorry. Go ahead.
But I feel in certain contexts where you tolerate a lot. And my push on that is, if they were to talk to your dad this way, would you be as comfortable with what they're saying? Right? So you substitute what they're saying to you in particular, and imagine they're talking to Nana and saying that kind of stuff. Would you sit there and be like, yeah, that's okay, he had a rough day? Or would you at some point say, hey, you do not talk to your grandmother that way? If it's not okay for you to say to your grandmother, your grandfather, it is not okay for you to say to your mother. And I don't, when they walk into the door, be like, hey, don't be rude. No, I mean, I try to give them some quarter, but I absolutely agree that my tolerance for nonsense it's not as...
No, I think the whole, like, would you allow them to talk like that to your grandparents, or in that case, my parents? That's a really interesting question, because effectively I'm saying, if there's anyone in the world that you can talk to like this, it would be me, because I'm the one who has the patience. I always imagine really thin Captain America in the alleyway getting beat up, and he's like, I can do this all day. Like, you can be a jerk, but I'm never going to leave you. I am here for you. I'm your dad. And, keep talking.
Mm-hmm.
It like
Right.
water off a duck's back. I can do
Right.
this all day. And I know that like that idea that like, and again, the children are not hurling, insults,
Right,
but
right.
when they're like the little one came home today and he hadn't eaten because he skipped lunch and he was salty. And I thought it was actually an improvement, because he had made a mistake. He didn't eat. He came home salty, and I said, hey, what's going on? And rather than me going and saying, dude, you need to eat. Like, you need to get your, he's like, listen, I am really hangry.
Yep.
And I need to eat something. and I can't deal with you right now.
You are welcome for that.
I thought that was that was 100% me.
I have taught him to be respectful to his dad and say, oh, please excuse me.
I built that child by Brooke.
You can take credit
From sure that was a pretty good one because he was like acknowledging that he was in a bad
I'm
place.
not in a good place. Yeah.
But the trick was that you told me was like, give him the space then. And he came back an hour later and he's like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, I
So
mean,
that was a good success.
absolutely. I mean, I feel like in the past, you'd have tried to hug him and then been in his
That
face.
is true. I would do that.
Yeah. But back
Come here, buddy.
yeah, if somebody's telling me I'm not feeling okay, I need time, I will respect that and give you time. But again, how you
I would say though that in the old days you would have been like, you'd like rip, you need to start. You wouldn't have given him that hour to decompress. I think that hour to decompress is important.
is important. And I would agree with that. That I also have grown because I'd be like, man, this is a you problem, right? You choosing not to eat as a choice.
You're 17. You skipping lunch is definitely a you.
Yeah, if I'm not going to be, what do you need me to do? Text you and be like, it's noon. Have you eaten? But for me also, the beyond that, right, is these kids are basically, well, one of them's out the door, literally, but it's the people they become once we let go of them. So this is an opportunity for us to try to influence how they're going to conduct ourselves.
A little bit.
Gas.
The last year. Well, it's like, are these kids baked or not?
Right. And,
I'll tell you though, they're not baked because people who know me, well, hell, you were there. Excuse my French. You were there. Tell me I was not better at 35 than I was at 25. Like,
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
like, I wonder, like, I hope these kids aren't baked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a process, right? They're baking.
I went through lots of versions.
Yeah.
Hanselman version 9 or whatever we're on now is way better diet than he was when he was 35.
Which is one of the fights that you and I have had about the change, the change in Hanselman as opposed to the stable Mo, for instance.
Yeah, you are the same, 100%.
Right. So, and before I'd be like, that's so bad. Can you not be consistent? Because from my point of view was, I want to know that the person that I'm married to is going to be consistently the same, right? The traits I loved about you, I do want them to continue. And you'd be like, I'm going to be a different man next year. I'm like, oh God, what am I going to get then?
I like personal improvement though.
Right. But yeah, and you've managed to convince me of the value of personal improvement, whereas I hope I've managed to convince you that even when you're improving, that the things that matter to you, that make you you, should still be fundamental to you and not be evolving every year.
Well, I think we agree though. The basic like stuff we have not wavered on at all. But I've become more chill about lateness.
And I've become a little more disciplined about being on time.
After a couple of minutes here. There's always the temperature problem, which is a huge
I'm still working on you.
It is so hot in this house right now. There's no reason for it.
What am I wearing?
You are wearing, actually, I'm on a t-shirt, and you have on 3 layers, including a fleece.
Yep.
And it's probably 74. Like
it's chilly. So
and what are we going to do after this? We're going to sit by the fire.
Of course. We're not fools.
I'm going to be on the far away from the fire. You're going to be blocking the fire.
Right. When you try to escape, then I'll drag you back.
So crazy.
I don't know.
It's too hot.
Hey friends, in the interest of me learning more about AI and helping you learn more about AI, for the next couple of episodes, we're going to have Leendert van Doorn from Qualcomm help me understand AI. What is an NPU and why is it important today?
So the NPU stands for Neural Processing Unit, and it's basically your AI accelerator. And so it can execute AI operations, these large language models, or all sorts of different generative AI models, in a much more efficient way than a CPU or a GPU can. So just to give you an example with Microsoft's Recall, right? You run that continuously in the background. Running it on an NPU takes about 30 minutes of overall battery lifetime. If you were to run it on a GPU, it would take 6.5 hours. Right? So it's all about energy efficiency, very specifically dedicated to a single task, which is AI in this case.
Very cool. So I'm going to go learn more about NPUs and how they can do things more cheaply from a battery perspective, more efficiently, and why I might want a Snapdragon processor in my next PC.
Exactly. Thank you.
And folks can check out more at qualcomm.com/developer to download those things and learn more today.
If you had a tip for something with your 24 years of vast experience, what would you tell somebody who's getting married tomorrow?
My number one tip, like the one that I will take, and that's my like go-to dad tip, dad energy whenever I talk to young people, is unspoken expectations breed resentment. It can be as simple as lunch, like, oh, are you going to grab lunch for us? Great, be here at this time. Are you going to make dinner tonight, or am I making dinner tonight? And if it's unspoken, and there's an expectation where I thought you were making dinner, and you thought I was making dinner, and then one of us resents it, and it's a tiny resentment. 25 years of building resentment becomes a problem. So the solution is to just say it out loud, right? Like when you're whether or not what time, which one of us goes to bed first, right? Are we going to bed at the same time? Or are we going to watch a movie? All you got to do is say, I'm hoping for da-da-da-da. I'm hoping that we'll watch the movie and you won't fall asleep. But if I constantly fall asleep and then you start to resent me and it's like, oh man, this guy sucks. He's always falling asleep in my movies.
Yep.
But I watch every Hallmark.
Complaining every step of the way, but you do watch it.
It's Christmas in July, baby.
I'll take it.
I watch them all. I don't know. What's your tip? What's your tip for the young people? Is that nothing? That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great one. I mean, I feel like you took mine.
Oh, really?
Which is exactly that. Communicate.
I gave you that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You knew I was going to ask you so. Just communication. I think you said it so well is you got to talk to the other person. I feel like you are on that same team and you just got to check in with each other and make that a priority. I mean, I feel like it's tough for especially parents, but any couple in general, when you've got young kids, teenagers, whatever you've got, it can be hard to find the time and make that a priority to be like, okay, we're going to make this a Mo and Scott time. Because a lot of the times, we used to have the date nights, and then a lot of those times.
Date night was great for early when the kids were young.
Yeah.
Like that was essential. And we had Mommy Day and Daddy Day.
Yep. That was cool. I would go by myself and decompress and hang out with my friends. And then the next week would be your turn to decompress without the kids. But we still also found time to be together. But even that was hard because the first half of that date night was spent on chores and kids as far as, okay, so Z has this next week. Are you going to be able to drop him off and pick him up and,
right.
Managing the house. But pivoting to the now with the almost empty nester thing, I mean, I miss that though, where again, at the dinner table, there's the two boys squabbling with each other or we're trying to have a dinner and one person's off on their own tangent or whatever, but you miss it when you don't have it.
Yeah.
And how crazy is it? How much food is left over when one teenage boy is gone? All of a sudden it's
we do have a ton of food.
Like, are we making more? No, we're not. We're just cooking for 4, but
well, the unspoken expectations plus communication thing has equaled shifting responsibilities around the house, chores and stuff. Like we kind of talked about it, but like I've been the cooking one and then you took over the laundry. Like we used to collaborate on the laundry and we used to collaborate on the food. So you do some laundry, I do some laundry. You do some cooking, I do some cooking.
Right.
And then somehow in the last year, after the oldest moved out, something shifted.
Because you got salty and we're like, I don't like the way you mean.
The rice, the rice is too crispy. I don't like crispy. Supposedly, so I'm cooking primarily, as a general rule, and again, taking nothing away from you.
Right.
And then, but now, and you don't think about that because you always told me any meal I didn't have to cook myself.
It's
delicious meal.
It's delicious, and thank you.
So I do my thing. I work from home. You work at the hospital, but I work from home, and then I try to have the food ready when you come home from the hospital.
Right.
And but then I have now effectively, and I feel bad saying it out loud, not thought about laundry.
Because you are a horrible person.
Hey, I cook though. I'm cooking.
No, I mean, and that's those
good though,
expectations we're talking about.
But it might shift next year. Like we might swap.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's not like we feel it's imbalanced. Is the point?
It is not imbalanced. And I feel like if I needed you to do the laundry, or you had a long meeting and you'd be like, "Hey, can you make dinner tonight?"
Oh, we do.
You would choke down my crispy rice and be like, "It's delicious." Well, you wouldn't say it's delicious, but
off the bag.
My goodness, relax. It's not.
The rice should be fluffed.
It's not caviar. Very cool. I was going to ask you something else. What was I going to ask you about? Oh, what's next for you when the boys are gone? What's Scott Hanselman going to be working on?
Well, so
as an empty nester.
I think, I'm going to be giving a talk on AI at the local high school for the teachers. to make sure that they're educated, because like they want to make sure that the kids are using it appropriately to learn and not using it inappropriately to cheat. And I am thinking that if I were not working full time, I think I would have fun. I would take classes. I'd probably take a Spanish thing to become more fluent in Spanish. I take like an actual class at the community college.
Cool.
I might take a class just to get a degree that has nothing to do with anything. Just like
Nice.
get a linguistics degree or something like that. I would probably get a full-time, what's the word? A coach, like a
Life coach?
not a life coach. I don't need a life coach. I got you.
I got you, Farley.
No, I mean listen to me. I want like a 6-pack, right? Like the last gasp before before death. You know, I think like I get like a physical coach. What do you call him? Like a fitness person, right? One of these kids at the local gym.
Workout, yeah.
Personal trainer.
Trainer, yeah.
Personal trainer. And then I would like do little startups and stuff, in the sense of like I would coach people. I would be a professional old teacher person, but I wouldn't have to punch a time card.
A card,
So it's a time card part
Yeah,
I don't like.
Well, because you have a lot to offer, and that's the thing with aging, I think, is that experience that you've lived and have.
Yeah.
You know, your kids are not going to listen to you because they're all,
They'll say you age, and you're saying like, oh, the experience you have. You're old too, man. Well, I look fresh. Well, you do look fresh.
No. I meant,
You know what I mean? Like just mentor people.
no, but I meant more along the lines of you've always been in the same field. See, I had a career change midway. So, yes, and it's been a decade that I've been in as a nurse, you know. So
Yeah, but you had a whole other career before
but
that.
yeah, so I pivoted. So I wasn't always, but you have what, 30 years now?
32. Yeah.
32 even? You know,
I was,
that's a-
well, okay, that's a good point. So there was the idea, could I still win an Emmy? You know what I mean?
What are our thoughts on that?
I think that I want to go and do a pilot season,
That's right.
because I've convinced that Ryan Reynolds has my career, right? You know, and my body and my hair. But like, I feel like maybe I could do stand up or I could be a talk show host or something like that.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have, I would just need health insurance. So once I got health insurance, I have retirement, and I'll get my 401k.
Right.
That would be cool. Just go to LA
Awesome.
and burn out for
Yeah.
a couple of years, and then come back and say, well, I tried.
Right.
I don't know. What are you going to do?
You gotta try. I mean, what am I gonna do?
Are you just going to hang out with me and go, good job?
Thumbs up. I would like to volunteer. You know, I'd like to go back to school at some point in time.
Again? How many times have you been to school? How many degrees do you need?
Learning is infinite. There's no cap. You can't limit me.
You want to be Dr. Mo.
Don't hold me back. You know,
Yeah.
we've got to have a Dr. Hanselman in the family at some point. So, you know, be a role model for the boys. I'll let you show that it's done. But they've got to go to school. We're still paying that off and get that sorted. But yeah, something like that. And volunteer. You know.
When you say volunteer, like be more specific.
Well, give back. Yeah, volunteer at hospitals. I mean, I see. You know,
So you work at a hospital now for money.
right.
Now you want to quit and then work there
when I
for free.
retire, volunteer, yeah, you know, give back or travel and be on a boat or whatever, you know, and be a nurse on a boat.
Oh.
You know, go visit
Could-
London.
Yeah, could we get free? You could be a cruise nurse or whatever, and I'll just hang out.
I'll say, I just hang out on the boat and sing. Just say,
So you have free boat or whatever it's called. Like, I don't know, free tour ship. When you say give back, you mean like I was talking about volunteering. Like I've been volunteering at Howard, and I've been volunteering at this place and that place, like different schools. I really like the idea of volunteering at universities and schools.
Oh,
It gets
I'm volunteering now. I am working full time. Yeah, so
yeah. But are you thinking taking the medical stuff
yeah,
and then volunteering with that?
exactly. Like going to third world countries and helping them with, you know, vaccines or is that what they call it?
That's well, because implying that there's a pecking order of the worlds
Oh,
apparently isn't appropriate. I don't know. That's what they said.
well, I don't know either.
You're the one who came from an emerging democracy.
That sounds like you're trying so hard to be.
I don't know. I just don't think, you know, there's not a first world and a second world. There's just, it's gradients.
Well, rather, okay. Well,
What do you think? You know, how was your
in a third world country?
who am I to say, right?
It's hard to way to say. Who are you to say, Hasselman?
Okay. So yeah, so you want to volunteer in other world countries?
Yes, in less fortunate.
Send letters to her, not me.
That's right. Yes, when you start complaining, that's Hanselman, Scott. You know, that's yeah. But you know, we have worked hard. You and I feel like in our lives, and we've been to a certain degree successful, and we're thankful for that. And how wonderful would it be to help others who are not as fortunate and give either of our time or of our money and
Send the ladder back down.
you know, yeah, exactly. Well, you have to explain that expression.
You don't think that's obvious?
It's not a
If you send the ladder back down, if you're up somewhere on top of the thing, And then if you steal the ladder, you pull the ladder back up, then how is everyone else going to get on the
Why
roof?
are you stealing? See, this is why you
Stealing a ladder.
It's not a ladder, it's an elevator.
There's no elevator.
escalator.
Send the ladder back down. Like you've reached the pinnacle of the thing. You're on top of the building. You're on top of, and then you're on the top of the roof of the house. And then you send the ladder back down for the next person.
Okay, so you've already ruined it. It's not a ladder because the ladder is leaning against the wall.
You put the ladder back. You think
safe-
there's an elevator?
If you get on an elevator and it takes you to the top, don't keep it up there. Remember that others also want to come up.
So literally, you never heard that there was an
But when
elevator.
how does that work with the ladder? The ladder is really nobody pulls the ladder up to the roof.
You will totally pull ladders back up to prevent people from getting there.
If you,
This is going to be where we're going to stop the show.
that's right.
Send letters to. Let us know if it's an elevator or a ladder,
Yeah, that's right.
and then let us know whether or not you enjoyed this podcast, or if you're going to skip this one and go to the next one.
Yeah,
But-
and what are you doing with your families and your spouses? What's your household like?
so yes, follow me on social media and tell me. My wife is not on social media, so any comments, I will just tell her what you all said.
Right.
So send us nice things, and thank you, Bo, for hanging out.
My pleasure, Sky.
This is where I'm going to do the ending of the show now. You ready?
Lovely.
This is Radio Voice. Ooh. This has been another episode of Hansel Minutes, and we'll see you again next week. Are you clapping?
Bravo.
Dork.